really looking forward to the challenge and getting to training camp because of that.
I would be reiterating exactly what Jacque said. It's been fun to see him play 5-on-5 and fun to see him put the work in this summer. So I think we're all excited to see what translates during camp. It's going to be a competitive camp for all. So I'm excited just as much as JV is for JV to have his first camp with this group. And I think you've heard several of the players, reiterate those exact same words. Like they're excited to get this group together and start bonding.
Christian Winfield, New York Daily News. Nice to see you guys. First question for Jacque. I mean, the last time we saw Ben on the floor, we had that moment where you were saying you weren't sure what the lineups would be that suit his skill set best. Has that changed? Have you had maybe a revelation, or is it his health now opens up different lineups that you can then put into play?
Yeah, good question first, Christian. I think at that time I was, at a place where as a coach, I'm always going to have a standard. And that standard of what I expect guys on the team to do, how we want them to play, and ask them to do things for the sake of the team. I think Ben's and I relationship is such a good place right now. We've been able to talk through some of those things, that moment in time of our life where I expected him to do things that I've come to understand that physically he just couldn't do. I think at that time you kept hearing me talk about force and those things and how I wanted him to play. And so now, like a revelation that I've seen the work that he's put in, where he was at, some of those things have been revealed to me. And I think that's why our relationship is at a really good place right now. But the things that I'm going to ask him to do going forward, I think he can physically do now. And so it does put us in a position where I can use multiple lineups, different people around him, so we can have success on both ends of the floor.
And following up on that, just what's your vision for this team, both offensively and defensively? I think defensively speaks for itself, the length, the versatility. Offensively, are we looking at kind of similar to the second half of the season last year, where it's play fast, shoot a lot of threes, or maybe seeing Mikal play in Team USA open up some other things? Just what's your vision for the offense and defense?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I won't mention too much about the past, but no Patty, no Seth, no Yuta, no Joe. Specialists that we had to shoot the tray ball. And so we'll have to incorporate different ways to shoot and score the basketball. So your threes are going to come from Cam Johnson is a career 40% shooter. So do we want him shooting 8 or 10 threes a game? Yes. Spencer at one time played with the basketball, without the basketball. The years he averaged 20 and 18 in this year in the league, he shot 6.5 threes per game. So do we want him shooting more threes? Yes. Ben's ability to play with pace and get us early opportunities, that now reveals itself. And then we'll see how this team grows together, what Mikal can do more with the basketball, the versatile lineups that we can have. And so hopefully at the end of the day, we're turning some of that versatility and length from the defensive end of the floor into some offense also.
Evan Barnes, Newsday. Good to see you guys again. Jacque, I guess like me, we're both going to be having our first training camp together, I guess.
Let's go, Evan, together.
So I guess going with Mikal and Cam, obviously, and Sean, you can speak to this too, but both of them obviously playing with Team USA. How will they, I guess, is there a plan to kind of integrate them slowly back into it? Or do you think the rest is kind of like help them manage kind of how, fit they'll be just coming off of their busy summer with training and obviously with the World Cup?
Want me to grab that one or you got it?
Look, I think we both saw them play overseas, so it was fun to go watch and spend some time with them and watch how they developed and be part of Team USA. I think coming back here, it's going to be, they're going to know their bodies better than anybody else, right? So it's about communicating with them and making sure that they're healthy long term. It's never been a quick fix, but at the same time, we expect them to come back, in great shape, which they are, and ready to go. But where are we in April, May, and so forth? That's going to be big.
Evan, I'm a huge fan of guys playing international basketball, playing in the off season. Like, this is what you do for a living. Is way better than just having an individual trainer and working on individual moves. They both had high level competition, skill development, still were working on their bodies, still working on their game, represented their country. And so now they come back fit and ready to play. Now we'll have to manage how we incorporate the group together, but also being smart in how we manage, what they look like 4, 5, 6 months from now also.
Simone Sandri, Gazzetta dello Sport. Hey, Sean. The Nets have been mentioned as a team who could facilitate a major deal as a third team. In that scenario, is there something that you would not be willing to do, like adding salary after this season, or it all depends from the situation?
Yeah, I think we'd take a, every different example, every different opportunity we have, we've got to take a look at. So, as it stands right now, I think we're excited about going into camp with this group. It's pro sports, and as I've said before, things do change over the course of a year, 2 years, and so forth. I mean, there's been no restrictions on how we build. Josiah and myself and JV have talked openly about how this team, will look in the upcoming years, and when is the right time to go back in and whether it's facilitating another deal, whether it's acquiring more players, whether it's seeing what these young guys on our team now can develop. And I think that's an exciting piece too, that we're sort of forgetting to mention, is this group developing together. JV, you already mentioned first training camp. So, we're certainly not in any hurry, but at the end of the day, we're going to do our due diligence like we always have over the course of the last 6 years.
For coaches, Ben Simmons have been saying that he sees himself as a playmaker still. What do you think about that? And do you see realistic, like having extended minute in a lineup with Claxton and Ben Simmons?
Yeah, I think I'll say yes and yes, first of all. I think what the biggest thing is, if Ben is able to play consistently at a certain way, there's no doubt then that he should have the basketball in his hands. It's probably the most I don't know, you have to guard him with the basketball in his hands. And so now we have to incorporate how we're going to have Nick Claxton on the floor with him at the same time. They both will be on the floor. So I talked about turning defense into offense. And so they both can provide some defensive leverage that we just didn't have in the past. The rebounding piece also is also incorporated into that. And so now that makes us a more detailed team. And so we have to be greedy with our spacing, and we have to be extremely detailed and poised in giving guys ability to drive the basketball. So you might have to be a foot to the right where you were able to be a foot to the left previously. And so detailed in our organization on the offense end on the floor.
Hey guys, I'm Mike Vorkanoff with The Athletic. What are your kind of reasonable expectations for Ben this season? In what role he'll play, what production you might see out of him as you're kind of building the outline for this season. And I guess maybe to go with that, now with the summer of hindsight and some time for analysis, how do you look back on his season last year and trying to make sense of that?
I think what JV said before is, like, let's not talk about the past, right? Like, we're not going to dwell on that a whole lot. I think we know Ben better now as a person and as a player and so forth. He's coming in healthy, and I think you guys have all read the quotes that Ben's had. So, I mean, the fact that he's feeling confident about where he is physically, that's going to be exciting for us to go see him in camp and build out from there. So to put expectations on where he will be over the course of the season, Mike, I think that's a little bit unfair because we haven't done that with any of our players. This is more like get out here, support him, and unleash him. I mean, if he's feeling great, fantastic. That's the whole goal here. And as JV said, there's no inhibitions in how he should be incorporated in camp or throughout the season.
And Jacque, just for you and how you're building out your team, like what, maybe not expectations, but what role, what style of play do you envision him getting into that? Was it the all-star form? Is it closer to what he was last year? Like, how do you envision the team looking with Ben?
Yeah, Mike, I think like I talked about, there is a daily standard for this group that won't be compromised. And so there's a controllable effort and persistence that each individual on this team is just going to have to show up with every night, and he fits into that same bucket. There's two things you're going to continue to hear me say this year is play hard and details. And so those two things that he'll be required to, just as every other player. And I think as training camp evolves, as we continue to see groups around him, those answers really will reveal itself. When we get to competing against other teams, it'll reveal itself. So kind of to be determined. I'll come back on you, Mike, as we spend more time together.
Hey, Sean, excuse me. This probably feels like a lifetime ago, but 2022, after you guys lost to Boston, you said, yeah, we took a step back culture-wise, and we need to find the players to actually drive the culture back to where we want it to be. Looking back to then and where you are now, do you feel like you have that group in place to get the culture back to where it was?
You know, as I've said in the past, you know, culture's always evolving. You know, and there's been times where you know we did take a step back, right, in a few different facets. Now it's just we're looking forward. How are we going to build this forward? It's a new group. It's a new coaching staff. We're excited about that. I've loved to see the group come together over the latter portion of last year, also this summer. I mean, there was plenty of opportunities this year where guys got together on their own. The guys came back in here in the gym, early, and they've been around each other. They've been eating together, hanging out together. That's important, right? And so I think our culture is continually evolving. I would totally agree that we have the right people to continue to drive that culture. It starts right here and it continues to go, and it goes with the players that we've not only are on our team that we've acquired.
Hey guys, Adam Zagoria, NJ.com. Good to see you. You mentioned the young guys and the core of young guys. Derek Whitehead, can you just kind of give an update on where he is physically? And do you expect him to play much this year, or is this going to be more of a kind of sit and look to the future for him?
Yeah, I think when we drafted Derek, we knew what was going to be the sort of the plan for him, and definitely not going to rush him. If you look back and you look at where he was predicted to be in terms of high school and career at Duke and so forth, it was derailed a little bit by his injuries. Incredibly fortunate to have him. Love the grit, the determination that he's shown so far. Rehab is going completely to plan and smooth. Again, wouldn't put a timeline on when he'll be back, but the plan is he will definitely be playing this year.
Sean, you spoke at the close of last season about the need to get bigger and nastier on the boards. Do you feel that the moves made this offseason address that need?
It's a great question. I think JV and I spent some time, pre-free agency, pre-draft, looking at this, and we're not going to go. There's not going to be a one man out there that just fixes a rebounding deficiency or a rim protection deficiency. We're going to have to do that a little bit by committee. So the people we brought in, there's a lot of them have a lot of length. There's a lot of IQ out there. JV's system is going to help with a lot of that in terms of how we're going to, we may not be the best defensive rebounding team in the league or offensive rebounding team in the league, but we're certain the plan is certainly be better than we were in the past. And again, that's going to be by committee, a system and a mindset with all of our players.
And then Jacque, back on Ben for a second, he's been vocal that he expects to play point guard and said that you were down in Miami. Has it been communicated to him that that's going to be his primary position this season?
Yeah, I would use the word agreement more so than commitment. And the agreement is if he's playing at a consistent and high level, then I think our pictures look exactly the same. So I think you could kind of put in that category.
Lucas Kaplan, Nets Daily. Nice to see you again. Sean, this one's for you. No secret that there's a lot of guys on this roster maybe battling for one or two spots. Was it an emphasis to build a competitive environment with this being the first training camp for this group together?
Yeah, Lucas, absolutely. That was maybe number one priority when we set out to do this. Is we wanted to acquire guys and keep guys that have a chip on their shoulder, something to prove. And I think that's what we've seen so far, just in their own player-led pickup games. It's been loud, it's competitive, and I think that's exactly fits with JV's mold of what he's wanting to achieve during training camp. So to have all these guys come in here, fight for positions, fight for minutes and so forth is a number one goal for us.
Eric Sparopoulos with the Nets. Jacque, we already mentioned Derek, but just for the three rookies in general, what's your message for them as they're heading into their first training camp and season?
Yeah, I think, my discussions with them, few things have been the professionalism piece of this thing, that this is now work for you. And we talk about being detailed as an organization. And so understanding terminology, understanding concepts, being able to do work not only in this building, but when you leave the building, that's going to be essential for those dudes. And then being in elite shape. You're in elite shape as an athlete, you give yourself a chance to garner some minutes, or at least make a statement during camp. So a lot of times the rookies don't get as many reps. And so the reps that you do get, it's all out because you are in elite shape.
Peter Splendoria with Daily News. With Bridges going into his first full season, having a full off season, just what are your expectations for him this season?
I think he continues to grow as a player, which is, the challenge. I think, just organizationally, you want everyone getting better. every single year within the organization, performance, front office, coaches, players, all of the above. That is a high performance staple. Is everyone getting better? So we're going to put more on his plate. We're going to ask him to do more. But at the same time, you saw in Team USA, he grabbed on to what has made him pretty special in this league, being a connector on that team, being defensive minded every single game. So those things he'll continue to do. But I will put more on his plate going forward.
Hey, Jacque, got two more for you. First one, following up on Eric's question about the rebounding part. Just, I mean, we've seen rebounding by committee not work out often. Just what can be done differently to give you a different result in the past? Or are you going to kind of have to come to the agreement that you're going to have to win in spite of not being that size and having that rebounding strength?
Yeah, a few things. So I think the one piece is, are there schemes that we can, lean towards a little bit that last year we were just a little bit of handcuffed. This is how we had to play. With a training camp, I'm going to put more things on the guys' plate early in the year for us to try out. So I think schematically, that's one of the things. I think Day'Ron Sharpe gets an early look and see how he can impose his will, not only helping us, put things back to neutral by offensive rebounding, but at the same time, being big and a force for us at the rim. So he's a guy that probably will garner some minutes early and see how that responds. In the past, I have not blinked an eye at playing small, and I won't again, just because there will be some times where we do need to play small and space the floor. But Nick and Day'Ron early will have a chance to impose their will.
And second, for either one of you, I mean, the one player we haven't spoke about today is Cam Thomas. Just what does his offseason look like, and what's the expectation of him this season? Are you guys expecting him to step up and be that sixth man, or does he have more development than he needs to do to be able to get consistent minutes?
Yeah, I think, the Ben questions, the Mikal questions, Cam Thomas questions, they all fit around, you still got to perform. At the end of the day, you're going to be judged on your performance, and that's going to garner the minutes. And so the performance is on both ends of the floor, on defensively and offensively. And so we want to see growth on both ends of the floor. So that's the challenge for every individual that thinks they should be playing. At the end of the day, are you doing both things? Are you giving enough on both ends of the floor? And so that's what everyone will be judged on performance-wise. And that's why camp's going to be great, the competitive part of it.
Understanding that it's not all or nothing and there are tons of minutes to go around. Do you view Ben and Spencer as competing for the point guard spot, or do you view Spencer as a guy who can be a viable two guard, even though he's played the overwhelming majority of his career on the ball? And if it's the latter, I mean, I think he shot 28%, I guess, for you guys, from deep. How do you unlock some of that shooting that he showed in Dallas, especially when you don't have Luka Doncic?
Yeah, so Brian, I think you're going to see a little bit of everything. Spencer, when he was playing with Luka, he did a lot of catch and shoot. And so Ben has the ability to have the basketball in his hands. And just historically, Spencer is a better catch and shoot three-point shooter than he is off the bounce. So that 28%, a lot of times you saw with us, end up being switch, ISO, off the bounce. That's the shot that you would want him to take. So he's going to get better at making that shot, but also we'll put him in a position where he's taking more catch and shoot. So that will put him on the court with Ben at times. At times, he will be the only point guard out there on the floor also, because he's shown that he can play point guard and manage a team and lead a team. So there'll be opportunities. And for Dennis as well. Dennis' ability to play with a group and lead a group himself, that is why I'm looking forward to camp, to see how that all kind of works its way out. But those three are going to be essential to how we play with pace, how we get to the rim, how we get paint attacks, and how we create threes for each other.
Just with what you guys did this offseason, a lot of guys are here on 1-year deals, and you guys have always talked about chemistry being so important. How do you figure you're going to try to mesh in a group with so many guys, obviously, on 1-year deals or becoming free agents? How do you expect that chemistry to try to mesh in and get everyone on the same page? I guess, Jacque, you start there.
Yeah, for sure, Evan. It's I'm going to address it at the beginning of the year. I think it's important to validate it, acknowledge it, We'll kind of enter the year as individuals. My goal is to finish the year as a team. And so that is the challenge. I'll be extremely honest and lay it out that this guy's on a 1-year deal. This guy wants a new contract. This guy is what he wants next. We'll put it out there open and honest, and then realize that we have a common goal of getting the most out of this group. So I think training camp, being together, being able to learn about each other, form those relationships is going to be huge for us going forward.
Jacque, you remade the coaching staff. Tell me what you were looking for and how you think it's going to work out.
So I'm extremely pleased and fortunate to have the staff that we have. I think a big part of it you were able to see a little bit this summer is guys went home a lot this summer. I've done different things before where you wanted guys around in town. Our guys went home, which was great, and then the coaches went to go see them on their home. With Kevin Ali, a guy who has won and been a head coach championship at UConn, was at OTE. And so just a year ago, he was coaching dudes that were getting drafted. So when you're thinking about, we got 3 young guys on our team, that connection is immediate. Will Weaver, who I've known for a long time, head coach again, who was in Paris last year and took a leap of faith to go and coach and have success there. Jay Hernandez, who at one point was a head coach in the G League. And so, but at the same time, James Borrego, Scott Skiles, Steve Clifford, when staffs change, he stayed on, which shows a lot about an individual, his ability to connect and work extremely hard. So I've seen his growth over our 10-year relationship. So all these dudes have been head coaches. Adam Caporn, who has run a whole institute, his ability to this year to have scouts, but also teach Noah Clowney how to shoot the 3-ball, the expertise that we have on our staff. Again, a guy that's been a head coach in the G League. Ronnie Burrell, I'm gonna keep going because I love these dudes. Ronnie Burrell, who was a head coach in the G League, is the cheeseburger of the group, and not the. I'm talking about meat and cheese and the bun. That's it. Not lettuce and tomatoes and onions and all the side stuff, but a core to our team, a guy that's going to coach the bigs, but also has a presence and voice that I love, who was a head coach. So Trevor Hendry, who was our summer league head coach, who's been here for a long time with me, knows me probably better than any other individual in this coaching staff, knows my ticks, what I need, my shortfalls, my blind spots. Who am I missing? Ryan Forehand Kelly, who is still on staff with us, carryover, great connection with our group. And then we added Corey Vincent also, who's a young up-and-coming coach who's been around basketball all his life. So this group is dedicated to service, relationships, and has a huge emphasis on prior head coach experiences. I hope I gave them some love. I hope I didn't miss anybody either.
I'm not sure how many people went into Team USA expecting Mikal to be the second best player on that team, and he came out and acquitted himself pretty well. Just what did you see from his performance overseas? And then did he show you anything that maybe you're able to build upon that you didn't know he had in the holster before?
I think you saw like a compete and a care factor, whether it was up until the last, miss the free throw, like I'm not going to give up, I'm gonna somehow find a way. Like that's who he is. And I think you saw, you're able to keep up with guys because of social media these days, or whether he forms a relationship with Austin Reeves, who next thing you know, they got a handshake together. And so those things make Mikal special when you're talking about creating an environment, a community, and a co-op, and everyone doing their part. Like he is the quintessential president of the co-op. And I think what you did see is his ability to really get to his spots on the floor and rise up and make shots. And so I think he's really focused on that. And so detail and really streamline where he wants to get to on the floor and the shots that he's capable of making.
Hey guys, this is kind of the first year in a few where you haven't had a real quote unquote superstar on the roster. Does that make it easier in some ways? You don't have to manage those egos, and what is that? Does that impact your aspirations to win a championship at all?
I don't think it makes it easier or more difficult or anything. This is the fun part of it. This is why we're in this together. Is you're developing young men, and watching them come together as a unit. We've never put limitations on where can any one of them get to. This is the fun thing. Like, we sit up here right now and sort of explain to you what we think is going to happen, and then 3 months from now it could be like, well, this person took another step, this person's confidence rose, the group came together quicker than we thought, and so forth. So in terms of expectations, I mean, again, even when we had our big three, so-called, back in the day, like, we never sit there and said, well, we have to do this. We knew what we were planning to do for sure, but again, with these guys, I would never limit anybody as to where we might end up at the end of the season here. This is a fun group, competitive group to be around, like JV has said. So, let's roll it out and let the chips fall where they may.
This can be a question for either of you, but one of the big moves this summer was the commitment made to Cam Johnson. Jacque, you mentioned his elite shooting, but just what makes him such a valuable piece to this puzzle?
I think, again, when you're talking about organizationally having individuals who are really unselfish, easy to be around, love working. So that environment, I think, as you're starting to kind of reestablish who you are as an organization, you want people like that around. He fits into that bucket of guys that I really want to coach, people who enjoy being around, has room to grow, willing to be coached hard. So those are the things that I love about him. And then at the end of the day, he's a quality human being. So in our day of where we need a little bit more civility in our lives, he fits into that bucket of being able to have an honest and open conversation about anything with.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We're back at it, Brian.